So let's create another RAG chatbot by using a different off-the-shelf GCP tool. So we tried the RAG engine, now we're going to try conversational agents. So in order to start creating a conversational agent that has access to data, you're going to have to start with a data store. So I've already created one because it does take a little bit to process, so we can test it here, but I'll create another one anyway. Basically, a data store is just a vectorized representation of your data. So if you're using unstructured data that you already have access to, like I do here, which is just a PDF of how to play the Pokemon TCG, you can select cloud storage, unstructured documents. This is how often you want to keep the data updated. I'm just going to do a one-time dump. But if you were to update the Google Cloud storage bucket on a somewhat often basis, you would want to select one of these other options to keep your data store up to date. So it would constantly take the new data that you put in the data store, the GCP bucket, and basically vectorize it. So that's the folder here. Continue. So that's going to get us started. But then we actually have to create the conversational agent. So in order to do that, just like in data stores, you have to go to AI applications. So you could just type in the search bar, AI applications, come here, and then essentially you're going to have access to both creating the data store as well as the apps. Let's go ahead, let's create an app. So there's a few options here. This is basically like custom search is basically going to be like a semantic search, similar to just like a Google search, which you could also use data stores for. They have a few other options, but specifically what we're looking for is this conversational agent. Let's go ahead and say create. So we're going to build our own because we're going to, so display name. Select whatever settings you would prefer there. Probably good to set it close to where you are from a latency perspective. So it's going to take you here, and then you kind of define flows or playbooks. I think playbooks are a lot easier to work with. So this is just a description of, let's call this default goal. So the goal of this is going to be, you are a living instruction manual with access to board and card game rule books. You should help people understand the rules of the games they are playing. Okay, so go ahead and save that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have to basically write these system instructions for how the bot is going to operate. But in order to do that, we have to attach that data store tool. So we're going to create the tool here, write data, type data store, add data stores. So I'm going to do the one that has already processed, not the one we just created, just because it probably is not finished processing yet. But they're the same thing. This is basically grounding. I'm going to just set it too high. Just want to make sure that when the bot answers a question, it is going to actually know that it's correct or have belief that it's correct. So then essentially what we have here is two different prompts that you could use. I think it's likely fine when you're first testing to use the default prompt. Okay, so these two prompts, basically you can edit, and essentially what they do is this is how we're going to essentially create the prompt to actually search for the data within the RAG. And then the second one is basically creating the prompt to actually summarize an answer. So while we don't need to change anything, I think we could go ahead and just make something simple. Just to provide a little bit more context. This could help distinguish if we had multiple board games in there. So the little things like that can help. So you would kind of do the same thing, which is actually summarizing once the LM retrieves the top, essentially chunks of information from the data store. This would essentially summarize it to answer the question. So I'm just going to use the default there. Okay, so now that we have this tool saved, we can go back to our playbook and we can actually add that tool. So it's already added, but we can add that tool to our system instructions that we're going to write. So this is how you can mess around with essentially just more the high level part of how you're going to interact with this conversational agent. So you are to use your tool, tool rag data. So again, just providing more context. So we can go into save. And then so you actually come into conversational history, where you can mess around with essentially trying it out. So you can select the model, you can select essentially which one, the playbook that we just created, and then you can start asking your questions. So this is the same question we asked the RAG engine, and it did not answer the question at all. So in this case, this conversational agent is already outperforming that by at least saying, yes, you can do things on your first turn. So this is already significantly better performance than the RAG engine and was very easy to set up, as you can see. So next step, we'll have to try and actually get the code for this so we can build this into our own custom applications and start having more and more off-the-shelf kind of conversational RAG engine tools that we can compare.